A400 is a IBM mini mainframe. And so I actually have had those in for recovery as well. But you won't be able to recover those. You'll actually have to use Linux to recover them, and you will not be able to use a write blocker because they're expecting a 512 byte sector and not a 522 byte sector. So they're 522 bytes, not 512. And so the last 10 are ECC, and you have to strip off that ECC. So you have to like write a script or a program to strip off the last 10 bytes. And then you actually have your data, and then you can weave them back together. So you actually have to do some work to do an AS400. So if you hear AS400, either run screaming or get a hire a programmer. Come on over. But it is possible, depending on distributed items with 4 drives. If you don't know the combination, you get the mystery box, which is I don't know what the order is, I don't know what the stripes are, I don't know what it is. Then it is possible that you could spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. However, if you use some of your wits, you might be able to figure out how to eliminate some of the options. So as an example, how do you know which drive is the first drive? MBR. Probably has an MBR on it, at least still today. So things like that can eliminate one of the options. Now you know which one's first. Then you can actually work through your process in all the other drives. So you probably have an MBR, and then you have to deal with your slice sizes. So I'll try to point out what my examples, these are redundant from this. So here's my point. I'm going to basically try to look at, and I just kind of came up with this by looking at the pictures. Remember that puzzle? This is how I really came up with it. You know those puzzles as a kid? They were a little square puzzle, and you have the little squares, and you slide them around? When I saw the way RAID works, and I saw how those slices work, that's exactly what it reminded me of. It reminded me of these puzzle pieces. I've got to move these squares around and figure out what the arrangement is. So you'll see in a minute. Now RAID 0 is much simpler. So RAID 0, you eliminate one of the combinations altogether. So you only have slice sizes and order. Those are the only 2 things you have to worry about. So if you don't know anything about the disks, most of them are going to be 2 or 4 drives. Of course, if you have 16 or 18 or 20 drives, you better hope somebody at least wrote a number on it, or you're going to be spending a month doing it. But we'll talk about it. And then the other thing I do is I test to find the slice sizes. I actually start looking at pictures in between all the sizes. Now, this is not perfect, and I'll tell you why it's not perfect. In between each one of the segments, let's say I looked at a picture, and the picture was 64K, between 64K in size and 128K in size. You have fragmentation. You have things that may be wrong. You may have corruption. You may have other things that actually happen. So I need to take a big sample. I want to take a sample of like 200 pictures and look at like 20 or 40 of them. And when you get some of the bigger ones, if any of them are right, you are probably right. But you may have smaller ones or compressed ones or things that are embedded in other pictures and